Okay. Uh, Good evening to all of you. A very warm welcome to all the participants and to our distinguished speaker for today, Shri Sumant Chadha. Uh, he is a senior partner with T.R. Chadha and Company, Chartered Accountants. Before I formally introduce him, let me just step back and give a brief introduction to Sama Audit. Just touch upon uh, since we are on the topic of analytics, touch upon what Sama Audit does. Sama Audit has been at the forefront in providing technology solutions for the past 20 years. And if you now look at the portfolio of technology solutions being provided, then we have IDEA, which is the analytics solution. You have Analytics AI, which is a AI, artificial intelligence solution on the cloud, mainly for CA firms. Again, you have Caseware, external audit working papers for external auditors, statutory auditors. You have Smart Exporter from Germany, which is a ETL, which is a direct connect to SAP. You have LSA, which is continuous control monitoring solution from Tier 1 Financials, London. So you have different technology being provided, world-class technology being made available to auditors in India, finance professionals, and forensic professionals. I think what is important is we have seen a rapid adoption of technology in the last 5 years by auditors in India. That's very heartwarming, not only by the CA firms, but by industry, by NGOs, by all organizations, entities, government sector in the country. I personally feel that Indian chartered accountants have been providing, Indian professionals, IT professionals, chartered accountants have been providing services to the rest of the world. And by embracing the latest technology, they will be further able to provide or become relevant to the world in providing services from India to the rest of the world. We are seeing that happen across the country. I cannot name companies, but we are seeing that happening across the country. So really heartwarming to see a rapid adoption of technology by professionals in the country. I would also like to thank the Trade Commissioner Service, Government of Canada in India, who have been supporting this web series, this webinar series by Analytics Wednesday. Earlier, before the pandemic, they have also been instrumental in helping us host workshops, physical workshops at the High Commission of Canada in Delhi, New Delhi, where we had invited a number of chief internal auditors and we held 4 to 5 events in the Canadian premises, embassy premises. I'd like to formally introduce Sri Sumant Chadha. He's an alumnus of Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, awardee of Ronak Education Foundation Gold Medal for securing first rank in CA in North India and second rank All India. He's a law graduate. He's working as senior partner with the firm T.R. Chadha and Company LLP since July 84 and heading the risk and advisory practice of the firm with a workforce of around 300 employees only in risk and advisory. Past president of IAA India, which is of course affiliated to IAA Inc. Florida, and also the past president of the Delhi chapter of IAA. He was a special invitee to the National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards for implementing Ind AS in India and to the Internal Audit Standards Board of ICAI. He is an active member of the Committee for Members in Practice of ICAI. He has been on the Managing Committee of PSG Chamber of Commerce and also served on many boards as an independent director. So we're not only having a speaker today who's a professional, but has been on the boards of directors, not only practicing, held various positions in various professional bodies and has been an independent director or maybe continues to serve as an independent director on many boards. He's a speaker at various seminars organized under the aegis of different professional bodies and co-author of 2 books on corporate laws. So a very distinguished speaker and is consented to speak to all of us. So over to you, Sumanji.
Words. Yeah. Good evening, friends. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So I'll go to my presentation. So, and can I be made the host?
Sumanji, it's already done, sir.
Okay, so I can share my screen also, no?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
And
So,
I think I'll just interrupt. I forgot to mention that he mentioned some time back that he drove 300 kilometers today to come and speak to all of us. So I
yes,
think with
I
that,
was in sales, but this was a commitment I'd already given, so I'm back from
big thank you to you.
23 degrees to 43 degrees. That is Delhi. So, good evening, friends. So, I have about 45 minutes, 40 minutes of, a thought process of how personally as a firm, we have been managing this piece, and then we have a small Q&A, and obliged to, Sama to have given me this opportunity. It's personalized to a mid-sized firm, and the journey is like today. If you imagine a journey, like I did a road journey with the Google Map, with the weather thing, and with online reservations on Booking.com, etc. Imagine without that, how would you be navigating? It's actually been doing something like a journey back in time. So then, right somewhere in the middle of the journey, we have to change gears, for example, and then pretty fast we have to hop on the technology bandwagon to continue. So that's the journey for mid-sized firm like ours, as the journey of TR Chadha and Company LLP is akin to this scenario. Just to mention, the firm was started in May 1946 in Lahore. So as we speak, we are celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. Yes, and the ground zero is somewhere in a muddle. What is happening is where the decision making is largely with the seniors with an average age of 50 plus, and the firm's strength is with the millennials, and the divide can only be bridged through technology and analytics. Indeed, we are changing gears as the entire leadership team of the firm is convinced that a professional services firm, which matters most, is not only managing the P&L, that is, what assignments we are doing, how we are billing and recovering, but also building the balance sheet, that is, its core capabilities to be making it resilient to embark onto the future. And today I'm not talking about the IT and data analytics tools firms adopt to execute assignments like Deepji just mentioned. What I can adopt and manage entirely as an in-house firm is what and how our journey has been there for some years and is work in progress is what I'm going to talk about. So as I move on, the contents and agenda are briefly as follows. First, benefit, which is apparent, how an analytics tool work and what benefits does it bring to the table. Two, major steps and the work to be done. What are the major steps which have to be undertaken to activate this tool and what all needs to be done? What are the report summaries which are useful to me as an organization, as a mid-sized firm, and an analysis of the reports and the advantages I can draw from them. And lastly, how it can make and help key decision making. So why do we need tools for a modern practitioner like us? So benefits of an analytics tool, basically the tools we are using today in our firm, customer relationship management, an HRMS, human resource, and a project module. There are other modules as well, but I am going to talk about only of these three. And basically, I'll just touch upon what are the areas we are going to talk about and how they may be useful to firm like ours. The central repository of client data. This is very important because we are a multi-locational, functional firm working in different industries and different areas of working. So we need to bring all the data together. What is happening is that in one pocket of the business side or vertical, we may be having a set of client, they do not interact with the other set. So to bring this all together into a central repository is a key function of this. And this will also give us a tacit knowledge of the clients, because how can the other services or other verticals or other locations leverage on this was not known until this tool came about. Because if a factory in Noida has a branch in Chennai, automatically the partner in Chennai would know about it. Otherwise, there would be an occasion that they may never get to know about it. Similarly, if there is a product or service which the client is looking for, but he's not knowing that whether this firm is able to provide that seamlessly in a different location. This also gives us a leverage to reach out to them. The process, for example, in HRMS, the management tool, because we had different branches, how to automate and standardize that process. All the verticals should know exactly what is happening. It becomes seamless, especially in the pandemic, how leaves are drawn, how work from home is worked out, how, everything is smoothened and brought in a best practice format is the tool which has helped us to make us very robust and very convenient. Similarly, the project management tool that actually drives projects and help us to methodically and administer our project resources end to end. Sometimes we need to ensure that right from the word go, the project is tracked. In earlier days, when these tools were not in focus, we used to do that analysis only at the end of the project and realize the P&L, etc. I'm sure big firms, big four, etc., are doing this day in and day out as a practice, and these things would be very elementary for some of them. But as a firm like ours, we embarked on this journey a few years ago, and we realized that how it is helping us to optimize the resources and monitor the performance, and also effectively each team can achieve their best possible in this scenario. We can also plan ahead. We can also do areas where resources are constrained or there is any resource leakage. The biggest thing in the pandemic is we can, since working from home is the norm, our teams can support projects anywhere in the country without having to earlier physically go. That was a time that if a project had to be done in Bangalore and the teams had to travel and do that, that of course has changed for everybody. But with this tracking of this tool, we are able to have a repository of work and availability of resources, and that matching can be done automatically through some control centrally driven. So that helps to make things very efficient for us. What are the major steps for a successful implementation? First thing, and the first and the most important thing, is data gathering. This is a very vital step because unless we are able to gather the relevant data in the desired format, things will never begin. Similarly, identification of a champion of the cause. So we have to, the key thing is to bring in cross-functional teams as owners of these projects, because then the buy-in comes much more naturally. We need junior resources, mid-level resources, as well as the complete buy-in of the topmost management team of the organization or the firm to be able to champion these cause and then allocate it amongst these different uh, teams who can then run together without having to depend on different verticals at any point of time. Management to lead the implementation, I just mentioned, unless it is driven both top down and bottom up, it has to be a combination of both. Depending on where the focus is required, it becomes very difficult. The consumption of time to actually implement it effectively just broadens. To shorten that and reduce the time available which is utilized for such activity is the key focus which one has to really work on. Gather the fence sitters. Now, fence sitters are those guys who really don't know whether their priorities, the work they have been allotted to, they have phenomenal amount of pressures. The compliance required to do any kind of audit, the timelines which are enforced by the clients, the quarterly reviews, the board and audit committee deadlines, and attrition of junior or mid resources, making it very difficult to complete projects, and then being very tight on resource allocation. You need to understand that they have a mindset of the fence sitters, that whether we are to prioritize getting and spending time on training or spending time Saturday afternoons only on getting to understand these tools, or we are able to keep the pressure of the client in focus and generate the reports which are required, or make all the corrections in the balance sheet which is important and required as of yesterday. That kind of dilemma which a large number of the workforce of the organization is facing all the time, has to be carefully nurtured and guided. If you are able to motivate key fence sitters, then they will do the rest of the work for the entire state of the organization, right up to the article level. So your work is only to work on these, identify them, and really, really work on them, because they will able to then feel the importance of the balance sheet of the firm rather than the immediate P&L, which I talked about. And we are now injecting, as a colloquial term today for the pandemic, we are getting inoculated. So what we need to use, inject the change process in the DNA of the firm's culture. This again has to be every week, every Saturday, every Friday afternoon, get into a Zoom call, get into a Google Meet, where we are able to drill down the DNA of the firm, that this is important. It is difficult, but most important aspect is the DNA of the firm should be thinking and working towards an analytics environment. That ecosystem has to evolve. Unless that happens, it's not going to work, and it's going to be very painful, because some pockets will excel, some pockets may not excel. What are we talking about? Post implementation and data sanitation. What we realized was, once we have launched all this, suddenly we realized that there are new things which have come up. We never got whiff of those. We were confronted in newer and difficult problems. So the ongoing monitoring was what was critical and helped us right throughout the project implementation, because the frequency of the data uploading and monitoring of the frequency, checking the same, had to become a part of the daily, weekly activity of all the stakeholders across the firm. And it is not one stop step. It has to be an ongoing process. The latest client data, for example, has to be updated real time. The proposals plus the pipeline and contacts need to be added on a regular basis. The flow needs to be continuous. And it is critical for the supervising team to keep a close eye on the sanity of the data continuously, as we often see various suboptimal results otherwise. So this is very important, because we cannot help lose focus on this post implementation as well. Let's get into how it's helping us. I'm giving you very small examples, but very useful examples. And if we deep dive into it, we realize how these tools have really benefited us. For example, client communication, analysis of proposal submission rate, sector region-wise analysis of type of proposals being submitted, analysis of industry-wide inputs. So what are two things are the major variables for a firm like ours? One, the different activities we do, the assurance activity, the consulting, internal audit activity, the taxation, direct tax, indirect tax, as well as the valuation, IBC, etc. That's one. Then the type of clients we service, whether it is services, manufacturing, hospitality, etc. Both those are critical to understand. For example, we realized that 67% of all proposals submitted in the southern region came from one particular type of services offered, that is GST. Again, 43% of all new clients added were from in the south region were from IT and ITAS. Very big data, which we subconsciously know it's happening, but once we have it on a radar, then our focus completely can be energized. For example, do we have adequate resources in a GST team in southern India to manage the new clientele which is being added? Do we have experts, team practice leaders in the ITAS who can understand the nuances and the troubles which they take, which they have, and which they have to deal with, and so that we can provide them a very effective service from day one? And again, we realized that 78% of the proposals in the pipeline for another region, for example, were dropped due to high price. Now we need to realize what is happening. Can we reduce the seniors' time and leverage it with junior people, so that the quality, without being affected, we are able to be in the market? So these kind of analysis were not possible earlier, sir. I must tell you, this has really helped us. Similarly, the type of reports, just giving examples. For example, this report gives a gist of all the accounts a particular client relationship person has affect and touched base with. It provides and analyzes the helps of type of clients in a region, repository of vital data, which can be used even if the resources are not there, maps all the key members of managing the account so that we are able to reach out to any or all of them in case there is some issue which can be easily then tackled as far as the right person is available on just a click of the button. Similarly, key accounts can be identified and focus of the top management could be those. Going ahead, this is the contacts master report. Has most important details and all contacts are updated real time. If there is a change in incumbency, that has to be captured. Change in mobile, if the people are transferred from one area to the other, all that can be managed irrespective of whether the owner of the account is available or not. So this is available always with the firm. And even if the person leaves or moves on, who's handling this client, it becomes seamless for the next person to carry on. These are basic things we all understand, but I'm, as an experience of the firm, I'm sharing how we have been working on these reports. The pipeline master report, this is by the far most important report that we pulled out by individual of a branch, because we know really what is happening, where the focus can lie on. Similarly, the project summary report shows the profit and loss of each project. Earlier we used to know much later, after the event, after the audit was complete or the assignment is complete. Now we can tackle on a real-time basis where over allocation is there, where the profitability is actually going to be taking a hit. And this will give a summary of all the assignments, whether completed or in progress. So we know that this particular industry is posing more problem, or this particular kind of service we have is giving us far more costs than what we originally envisaged. Variance analysis, actual versus budget, which I talked about. This helps monitor the budgeted hours, and if the hours are more than the actual hours, then the project is in the loss. Right from the word go, this can be monitored virtually on a daily basis, and also seen from a perspective of what needs to be done as a course correction. Similarly, this activity shows us completed jobs, the billing accuracy, location, job fees, because immediately the job is closed, can understand that this is going to be really useful. I may close my, just 1 second, I'm just coming in a minute. Just. Yeah, sorry. Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. There was some indication on my computer. Yeah, this is finally the report showing profit and loss account on chargeable, non-chargeable hours submitted by every employee of the firm. Here, chargeable means productivity and non-chargeable means idle time unproductively. So each and every employee, right down to the article level, juniormost employee, I have his dashboard available to me. We can engage with the verticals. We can engage individually to see how better the utilization can happen. What are the root cause analysis? Whether the there is some skewed allocation of work between teams, or there is some shortage in one team vis-a-vis surplus in the other. All that is required, but we need to take out time to analyze this. These reports are generated in the system, but if we don't sit down and analyze this on a particular weekend or weekly basis, monthly basis, and the managers flag or make red flags as to this is beyond the normal threshold, we should be able to then get into a call on a Zoom and get rectification process in vogue much sooner than what was earlier possible. The HRM module provides, of course, the basic thing, employment related details, but this is so useful. Then even if the HR changes, it becomes seamless for all of us. This is attendance of all a particular period. So we know exactly what is happening, whether employees are on leave, where there is a problem in terms of managing this HR issue. All that can become so seamless, and click of the button, we have the entire scenario with us. This is a workflow pending approval report. Sometimes we have leave applications, comp off requests, attendance regularizations, which doesn't get uploaded in the system because the partners are on leave, or they're awfully busy, or there's some problem which was not envisaged earlier. Maybe in the system, in the laptop has crashed. Something could have happened. So at least we know where we are, and if it is just at the end of the month and the salary is to be processed immediately, rather than the account, the accounts team kind of putting a red signal, and then maybe sometimes salaries get deducted wrongly. These can be then overnight rectified, as long as the dashboard is available to all of us. So slowly and slowly, the organization gets into a DNA of working on these reports, relying on these reports, and also finding the best use available right across the DNA of the firm. What is also planned is, the employee life cycle, retire to hire, how we can, upload the videos of the new joining training capsule, where the senior partners, different vertical heads can record their videos, and whoever is joining immediately gets into a room and gets trained. So it need not be an on-the-job training. It can be an on-the-job training 24/7, rather than we wait for a month to close, and then every time we have a training session of all the new journeys. So we prepare a video, and then we can utilize it even for a training for a particular skill, like indirect tax, direct tax, assurance, internal audit. We are able to our endeavor is to make multiple videos, so that every time a bunch of new joinees come in, they are and whichever level they are going to be joining as, they get into a class where they see these videos. And of course, later on, they have to interact with the seniors to understand and clarify their doubts. But at least a large part of the time of the seniors are saved, so that they don't have to go again and again and spend time in handling the new employees and managing the attrition very well. Probation confirmation, HR movement, separation, it becomes seamless, because automatically, just before the probation happens, these forms are given as to the assessment of what the probation period actually threw up, what are the learnings, what worked, what didn't work with these new employees. Is there something which was a wrong fit, or is there something where we realize that this boy is brilliant, or the girl is brilliant, and we can focus her for a higher level immediately and bring her into focus. All that becomes much more seamless. Salary register, TDS calculation, these are a given. I mean, these have to happen, and these most firms are actually working on. Key decision making. For example, a basic analysis of the type of proposals submitted and the clients to which they have been submitted can throw up some very interesting analytics about the market trend, which helps decision making. For example, 45% of all proposals submitted to a particular region were made to e-commerce sector. On the other hand, 10% proposals were submitted to the FMGC sector. So could be that we're not getting work from FMGC because they work with only Big Four, or there is some other reasons for these, or there is more complexity in the e-commerce sector. So we must focus on that. And there are a plethora of issues which are coming up, whether it's taxation, fiscal laws, and the logistics issues, and the way they expand. They need a lot of controls to be monitored for a firm like ours. So it gives us a focus to train people in this sector, for example. Pipeline funnel analysis. What does it help me? The manpower planning can be then aided when I have this graph, that I can identify the blind spots, that I can find that in Gurgaon, there is a high work for audit services as compared to consulting. So I need to focus on that. Am I adequately resourced in these places? to the kind of work which is flowing in, or is there something more I need to be doing so that I am able to service these clients much more quickly and anticipate the recruitment in the various service lines which have functioned. Similarly, my project module analysis gives me very interesting insight. For example, I realize that in audit services, in taxation services, in consulting services, I I have in taxation services, I am able to meet 80% of the time my budgets, but in audit services, only 50% of the time my service. What is the root cause analysis? I need to, why is there more overrun over a period of time in audit services to the costs was vis-a-vis? So am I projecting lesser man hours? Yes, I am, because now the compliance in audit, my work papers requirement, the company's act triggers, etc., is far more difficult than what it was maybe 2 3 years ago. The new caro has come, I have to budget for that. The comply for listed companies, the SEBI regulations, then the NAFRA regulations have made much onerous the requirements for documentation and sampling techniques, as well as preparing in-depth analysis using technology. All that is actually having to rework the man hours. But this will give me an idea of where I am and what needs to be done. Similarly, this is a heat map. So I understand that 17% of my chargeable man hours in Delhi have lost, but only 5% of such man hours have lost in Mumbai and 10% in Bangalore. So I have to find reasons that why am I losing more chargeable man hours in Delhi than vis-a-vis Mumbai, or maybe the benchmark of 10% I have the firm. So these heat maps are very useful to me. I immediately, because it's very difficult to control them on a day-to-day basis unless I have a top view approach. And that is really, we can work with these teams and find reasons in good measure, and also get into corrective action in good time. Location-wise utilization of man hours. This is something also very important. For example, risk mitigation in terms of the CRM. I have able to then, location-wise, I can tell that storing all the data at one place in a central server or in the cloud can create better backup for me, for example, and help mitigate risk of data loss. Similarly, greater efficiency. A 25% increment in available man hours has allowed more bandwidth to equip the firm with pipeline with more projects. Efficiency improves, profitability improves. The charge out rates haven't gone up. In fact, each and every client in the pandemic is asking for a cut rather than increase the fees. So the only way I can work and survive in the environment is reduce my cost. This is, and beyond a particular point of time where the good professionals are in high demand, there is no way but to encourage to able to retain them through salary increments, etc. But the tool which I have in my repertory is better utilization of time, more leverage of junior people with good training, so that I am able to reduce my cost, the variable which I have complete control over. And it's amazing if you are able to utilize these tools as to the results which come about. Automation, better governance, greater degree of automation in, for example, HR helps to ease burden on existing resources. And in governance and control, we have multiple state laws across different thresholds, like minimum wages and professional tax requirements, other requirements, all can be managed very beautifully. Then, of course, progression with better management of existing bandwidth, we are able to get better and newer projects of high value projects, and resulting in higher overall performance. So all this really helps us to improve the culture, performance, and the satisfaction in doing a better job every day. What are the challenges which we face on this journey? Personal challenges. This is key. This is a key problem, and this is something which all organizations, I believe, face when they are setting up an analytics tool, whether it's industry or services or professional firm like mine. Making user to adopt the, how to make the fence sitters work. Sorry. on this. Both push up and bottom up, push down and bottom up approach is required. And you have to play gently but firmly. Realize that there are limitations in the time available. And be conscious of the fact that they are pushed and pulled by the clients and the deadlines, but also slowly inculcate in them, inject the vaccine in them of analytics. The vaccine for analytics is a cure, my friends, just like the vaccine for pandemic is a cure ultimately for all of us. This lack of awareness has to be tackled by continuous training, continuously to give the areas of focus where they themselves will find their work much easier after a particular point of time, so that it becomes seamless for them to upload data, to review data, and to participate in developing further more refined analytics tool for the organization, so that the ease of use becomes and permeates the entire organization. Because unless the organization wide usage is adopted, because we have pockets of areas where we know that this particular vertical is overstretched because of some attrition, etc. So they may have more complexity, difficulty in adopting this. So we need to work with them, handhold them. We need to be really careful about their client commitments, etc., so that we don't strain them too much. Strain definitely everybody does through the process, but at the end of the tunnel we realize that the strain is well worth the effort, because then what will happen is that your own efficiency, your own mirror image becomes so much more clear to you. You yourself, you find your efficiency going up exponentially. Your team becomes more cohesive together. They can work around their level of frustration as to why the other teams are doing better than my team, internally and across my personal self-esteem. All can be handled and becomes a very interesting way to progress professionally, personally, as well as for the teams. Technology implementation is, again, for the millennials is so easy, for the senior people is more difficult, but we need to bring them on board as to, yes, we need to make that extra effort, because then it's the fear of missing out kicks in for senior people like us, and that's the area where we can easily assuage and bring in these tools to handhold them to and take them extra mile, so that the fear of missing out is removed and they are in the thick of things and enjoying the journey as never before. And of course, then data becomes incomplete. We don't have the data. Sometimes it's very rough stage. All that hygiene verification, etc., takes place. All that is a process, and the pain, no gains without pain. And once you go through the throes of the pain, we are able to reap the benefits far more efficiently. I think I'm coming to the end of that. This is a way forward for us. We need, like Deepji mentioned, audit documentation. We are using data analytics, idea for many years, but not as much as I would want to, and ultimately get into big data and artificial intelligence solutions. That is my and the firm's wish list. I hope we are able to, take decisions to embark on this journey as we go along. And the only shortcut, there is no shortcut. We have to start by starting and enjoy the process rather than consider it as a limitation. I think I'll close my presentation now and move on to the questions, if any. And
Yeah.
we found it useful and interesting, because it was our journey. People have, progressed much more than us, but I thought, some who may not be, it will give you an insight of how the firm actually has transferred. So I'm going to stop here.
No, I think Sumanji, and very interesting journey. It sounds so simple when you have presented it, but when you work in the field, you know how difficult it is, as a practicing chartered accountant, as a consultant in the risk and advisory, when you go out to a company also, and you say you start using a CRM module with just 20 salespeople across the country when you're bidding for jobs, and you see that journey, how it is implemented in that company. It takes years to cajole people, make them understand that they have got limitations of uh, pressures from the market, targets, and at the same time they have to fill in the charts, they have to fill in the data so that it's available in the CRM module. So doing it across the country in a CA firm. You have presented it very nicely, very softly, okay, the CRM, HR module, project management, but it is very important. And I think where you have already arrived and also what you have in mind for the future speaks volumes of your leadership in the firm. Now, I think I will quickly go to the question. There's one very interesting question, relevant question. Since you have been on the Accounting Standard Committee and a lot of other committees at ICAI, how do you think data and analysis should be incorporated as part of auditing standards to make more useful and helpful to the auditors, as now it is mandatory by Government of India to have a log in the accounting software?
So there are two parts to this. I think, let me attempt. So the log in the accounting software is simple, that even Tally now can be configured. And that is now luckily mandated from 1st April 2022, not anymore. Not earlier, it was envisaged from 1st April 21. But nevertheless, this is something you need to work with. Even the Tally has that. And any other software which is more sophisticated would automatically have that capability. If it is not been activated by your clients, it should be done, and test runs should be done, because the onus will come on the auditor to confirm whether the log is there for any manipulation or change or rectification or JV, and when it was made, by whom it was made, what was the original entry. That log has to be seen, and that is something which the government is very clear that should be required, so that backdated entries are either totally avoided, or even if it is required compulsorily, it gives a trail as to why it was made. It was not to manipulate the accounts, but only as a rectification itself. But more than that, the data analysis for accounting standards, the institute, I'm part of the committee of members in practice. We have brought out two RFPs to, several RFPs. One is the digital library, one is workflow documentation, and one is to, exactly on this. And when I do an audit, and the accounting standards prevalent in India are inbuilt in the software, so that my checklist automatically through the software will give me an idea of how to bring about verification of that item. So that is something which the institute is actually working on, and they propose to give it free to all the practicing chartered accountants across India. This is a very important project, but I think is work in progress. And Deepji, you can also mention you have some tools available at your disposal for this.
I think Caseware working papers, we have the Indian auditing template. It is already being used by around 30 major firms. It is already being used by around 30 firms in the country for the past few years, and many more are adopting it. So Caseware working papers is, I think, a leader in the world in terms of external audit statutory working papers. But each country has to, each distributor or solutions provider in each country has to make their own auditing standards template and the financial template. So I think that is why we in India have made the Indian auditing standards, template, which is available to anybody who buys the working papers. So they can adopt the Caseware working papers, and as Sumanji rightly said, they can adopt the auditing standards are there, and you can carry out audit. You can carry out audit based on the Indian auditing standards and accounting standards. So based on that, it can be adopted and done. The IFRS templates are also available in DS, which is akin to Ind AS. I think recently again there was a guideline that IFRS Ind AS will get, IFRS and Ind AS would be harmonized. There was a recent, last month the government came out with a notification or statement to that effect that they're going to harmonize both, so that there is the minor differences which we used to see between Ind AS and IFRS would also get negated. Now, with that, at the same time, yes, Sumanji, please.
The question, I think Rajeshji mentioned, which CRM software we use? OSource. It is for both for all CRM, HRMS, as well as for PM. OSource is a company, I think they've done for other mid-sized firms as well, based in Bombay and Pune. And I don't know the company's name, but that's the software we use. And he's also asked one question on, can you elaborate on Caseware working papers? How does it work? Deepti, I think you can.
Yeah, okay. I think Caseware working papers is for external auditors. So It's a hybrid model. It's on the desktop as well as on the cloud. So you can collaborate on the cloud, all your working papers. So the entire the entire life cycle of an external audit, statutory audit, is done in automated fashion. So right from your planning to field work to build checking evidence collection to results reporting, everything is automated. All your people work on the working papers on your desktops in the automated modules. So in short, the entire life cycle from start to end of a statutory audit is captured with the log, with the trail in the software. Because I think NEFRA now talks about maintaining a log of what is the activities. Even the auditors have to demonstrate what is the log of activities. So all that is maintained within the Caseware working papers. So that engine takes care of the auditing requirements for any CFM.
Right.
I think there's no other question right now. Anybody has any other questions? You can post them because you're a very experienced person, Sumanji, available today. Can you have a training session on the case of working papers? Yes, we can talk about it. No problems at all, of course. Any other questions for Sumanji? I think I have a question for you, Sumanji. You said you have to be very patient with your people because you understand that they are under a lot of pressure to make change possible. But as we have seen with industry, it's not easy to make a change when you have diverse people from different ethnic background across the country, spread across the country. So how do you manage that change? What is the methodology in your firm which you have adopted to manage, bring about change? Because you would also not like change to be very slow, as the external world is changing very fast.
So, Deepji, there are many ways to tackle this question, and actually on ground zero, two, three things would come to my mind straight away. One is the empathy. One must realize how each and every individual is. What are the strains and constraints they are working with in terms of earlier. A lot of my employees had to commute 4 hours a day, 2 hours coming, 2 hours going. That has really been eased out for many of them. But even at home now with pandemic, a lot of people have been suffering. There has been second wave, first wave. We've had a lot of challenges on that, and suddenly we realized that no, this new model has come of ERM, and we or CRM, we have to implement it. We need these reports, etc. So we have to give time. It's not going to be, Rome is not going to be built in a day. We need to, unless it becomes a habit, and they realize that this habit is going to be very useful to them, then alone they will adopt it. It has to come from within. And the managers who are working with their teams are my brand ambassadors for that. So we need to bring them together and work on them so that they can translate it on the job and quickly disseminate that experience, knowledge, benefits to the team. Because if the top management wants to reach out through messages of Zoom calls or town halls or emails, it happens for some very quickly, and it may not happen for many as well. So it's not one fit activity. Some regions do much better, some verticals do much better, and we have lean seasons in audits, for example. So then we can push those lean season activity. Tax filings also are staggered. The tax scheme, the tax partners are energized during the lean season, if at all there is one, to bring the team together. So it has to be continuously tackled on a real-time basis across different teams differently, and managed very, very, hands-on with full of empathy. Because without empathy, it cannot work for long.
Right. Any other questions for Sumanji, please? So I think no other questions, Sumanji. So may I, on behalf of Sama Audit Systems and Software Private Limited, and on behalf of all the participants here today, I want to thank you, a big thank you to you for spending time with us and sharing analytics methodology the journey of your firm, I think, which is very relevant, a learning experience for all of us. So thank you very much, Sumantji.
Thank you, Deepji, for giving me this opportunity, and hope you found it useful. And if there's any time any issue, please you can always reach out to me directly or through Deepji. I'm always available for the professional brothers.
Sure. Sumanji, if you want, you could just share your email ID with, on this group, so that if anybody of them wants to reach across to you, they can,
Yeah, I'll just type.
reach out to you. And of course, you can write into us, or you can write into Sumanji directly. It is, you can see it, sumant@trchadda.com. So I think it's there for all of you. It's in the chat box. Thank you very much, Sumanji, once again. All the best. Thanks.
Request everyone who have not got their vaccination, please get it done for themselves, for their employees, and their friends and family. That's a message I want to carry as a parting.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You're absolutely right. We should all get vaccinated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thanks.
pleasant evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.